Hey crafters, welcome to the DM's Craft. I'm DM Scotty. Good to have you with me. Today I'm going to do some irregular pillars. Now we've done pillars out of cardstock, and we've done some pillars, embellished pillars with some cast material from Hearst molds, which are great molds if you can afford them. Today we're gonna construct these pillars out of styrofoam, the construction type styrofoam. It's like the pink or blue stuff, and the hot wire foam factory tools. Now I've shown these before in another video, kind of introduced these, but I'm going to show a little more what you can do with them in this video. I'm going to do a couple videos on this subject. Today I'm going to do stone pillars, and next time I will do some like wood pillars that like wood has been piled up to make a pillar inside of a layer. So right now we'll go to the table and I'll show you the materials I need and the hot wire tools I'm going to use, and let's head to the table. Today's video will be focusing on the use of hot wire foam factory tools. I've shown these in another video in the past, but I want to elaborate on these as these are great tools with many uses. I wanted to show how to do some easy pillars like I talked about, irregular pillars like I talked about in the introduction. So what we'll need is we'll need our hot wire set. I'm going to use the freehand router and the engraving tool. But we also need some construction, I call it construction styrofoam. It's that pink or blue stuff that you can get at the hardware store. And this is about $20 a sheet, I think, which is a giant sheet. What I usually do is I usually buy the sheet, break it up in the parking lot, and put it in my car, you know, in sufficient chunks that will fit in my car. So, because I don't have a big car. So you don't need a giant chuck to carry it, just break it right up in the parking lot. So this kind of gives you an idea what it looks like. Now this is a 2 inches thick type of styrofoam. They have 1/2 inch and some other thicknesses. I think this is the thickest. There may be a little bit thicker kind, but I believe this is the thickest. But the 2 inch seems to work great for getting the height of the pillar without really impeding play and being too high, too much for the tile. So let me grab my tools and a smaller chunk of this stuff, and we'll start working on the project. Here I have my piece of junk styrofoam. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a little circle on here to kind of signify like a pillar. So say I wanted to have the pillar something like this. I could, that'll give me kind of a guide to do this. So now I've got my freehand router tool. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut it out. Just, it goes right through there like butter. Okay, so there we go. Now I'm just gonna, this can kind of collapse as you pull on it, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna hold it open. They also have a piece that you can fit in there now that will hold this open, so, but I'm just gonna use it, hold it like this. And this is a regular, so, you know, I kind of want some, I'm kind of doing a little bit of back and forth type stuff on here. And if you don't follow the line, that's okay, it's just there for a general guidance. You can pull that off there. And the great thing about these tools is, look, that's one piece I cut off there. If you're cutting this with a knife, you'd have a mess everywhere. There'd be junk everywhere. This stuff is just bam, you're right through it. So, cut this one here. And then that could be it. That would be all you would need to do. But there are a few things I like to do too. This is going to be a stone pillar in a cave. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull just across the top, just take the very small layer off the top. And this just gives it a little bit of texture, more like a stone texture as opposed to just a flat texture. So see how that worked? Even though this is theoretically maybe going up further than it actually is, this just kind of gives the illusion of a stone texture, kind of like how we would use the hot glue on the edges of a cave. Now, you could go from there. I mean, that's pretty interesting right there. But what I'm going to do is I was trying to do like a mining cave, so I'm going to do kind of like indentations of this. So I'll kind of just pull that. You can bow it out a little bit. So now I've kind of made some nice indentations in that, and I can continue that line. Like that, and see, it gives us some nice. Also in the cave that I'm doing, I was going to put some deposits, so you can even make deeper ones into it if you want. So see how that's really giving some nice texture there on top of the already cool texture we have for the stone. And you know, it's a cave, so you want to make it irregular. You don't want to make it too... So there you go, just a few minutes, and I've got a really cool stone pillar there for the cave. Now, I'll give you a little closer look at that. See how that looks? Really nice. And that's really all there is to it. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a few little deeper indentations, because I wanted to put some stuff in there that would be like a deposit they were mining. And I was just going to use glue, and I had some, I was going to put some gravel or construction sand in there to kind of make it like a deposit and paint it like whatever deposit you wanted to paint it like. So I could do another one here, just make a little deeper indent. And there we go. So we're now ready for like our mining cave. Now what I'm going to do is a trick I talked about in the other video. I'm going to actually spray paint this with a black paint, and the spray paint will actually melt this foam a little bit, which will actually give it kind of a neat texture, a neat rock texture. But it won't cover the entire object up. It'll kind of melt in a little bit. The paint will kind of melt, so you'll see some of the pink through it. So what I like to do is I like to paint it with the spray paint and kind of melt it a little bit if it's like rock like this. And then what I'll do is I'll paint it with the acrylic paint black to fill in those places where the spray paint didn't get to or just melted through. So I'll go ahead and spray paint that and show you what kind of texture that adds to that. See there, I'll give you a close-up so you can kind of compare before we bring that back. But all right, so I'll go spray paint that and then show you what it looks like. I wanted to show you the texture on the stone that I did, so get a close up there. So you can see that it has some really nice texture on there from the spray paint. It just ate away a little bit at the surface and gave it a really rough texture. So I'm not gonna paint this for you. I've shown enough examples of the painting, so I just wanted to show you how I did this. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna show you the finished tile that I use this on, this type of thing on. And all I would do to finish this up would be to just paint it black with acrylic paint. Then I will dry brush a dark gray on it, and then I'll highlight with a lighter gray. That's all I'm going to do. And you've seen me do that before, so and you all know how to do that, so that's not a big deal. But I want to show you the finished product and how great these look on the tile. So you could also, if you wanted to, you could spray these with the texture paint. But I wouldn't just flat out spray them from the pink foam to spraying the texture on, because it'll eat it away just like this. What I would do is I would paint these black first with the acrylic paint, and then you could put the, then if you spray the texture paint on it, it wouldn't eat away at the surface. And you know, some people might add some reinforcement to this, but this is plenty strong for the type of thing we need it for. So I wouldn't even bother with that. Although I do want to show one last thing before we go to the tile. And that is, how do you get this on, how do you stick this to the tile? Well, the standard kind of Elmer's glue that I use a lot is not the best thing, because it doesn't work very well because it doesn't get much air, and it's kind of an air dry glue. So it's not really getting much air under this styrofoam. So what I prefer to use is some glues that I get from the hot wire foam factory. You could also use hot glue, but I caution you not to put the hot glue on this because it'll melt it. So what I would do is put the hot glue on the tile first and then stick it. But that can be tricky because you want to get enough of the hot glue that it'll stick, but not be coming out from the edges of the piece. So you could trace the piece on the tile maybe, but then that's other problems. So it can be tricky to use the hot glue because you don't want to put the hot glue on this. So I prefer to use the hot wire foam factory glues, and I'm going to show you a couple of those right now. So I have basically two kinds here. This is a foam called Foam Fusion. It's very similar to white glue. It has about the consistency of white glue, and it works great, especially for putting foam together if you're doing a multi-foam piece. But it works just as well as for gluing this stuff to our cardboard tiles. Another thing is that's nice is this styro goo, and it's very viscous, so it'll stick to the foam very well as far as like not running off. So you can put a glob of this on the foam and then stick it to your tile. So that's what's nice about this. It's also nice for putting foam pieces together if you need to. But yeah, these are two glues you can get from Hot Wire Foam Factory, and they're specifically made for dealing with foam. So if you think you want to do this foam kind of stuff, I would highly recommend these. So let me go to the tile and I'll show you how great this pillar will look on the tile. Here's my tile with the rock pillars, and I think they look really great. So there they are on the tile. I've got my characters here. Now you can see this is it looks like a multi-tier tile, just like I've shown in an earlier video. So this would be higher than this would be higher, and then this would be on top of this. So what I did is I actually made little ladders, which are very, very cool. So I'll show you that. All it is are two matchstick type pieces of wood, 4 pieces of toothpick cut off, and then I just did a little A shape with a piece of cardstock like that, and then I glued a jot of hot glue in the center, and that keeps it sturdy so it doesn't collapse. So those are little ladders to represent going up to the different levels. Now the ladders, of course, are much smaller than they normally would be, but it gives the idea so that the characters can go up the ladders. But so I had different tiers on here, and then I had these pillars. And as you can see here, some areas of the pillar I've cut out more than others, and I've added some of this like glittery texture in there. So what I finally did was I did a little bit of the sand. I did some of the sand, and while it was wet, I put some glitter on it, this bluish glitter on it to give this interesting kind of texture, interesting kind of look for this ore that these creatures are digging up. It's kind of like I was using it like an alchemical fire type mixture, and these creatures were digging this stuff up, so to refine it. So the players were going in there and trying to stop this operation. So this was the whole mining section of that tile, and I've got some more going off. But anyways, these are the pillars, and they really look great without adding a lot of problem to play. Like I say, if you had walls on this thing, then you got to deal with the walls and getting, you're sitting down, and you got to deal with the walls and getting over that. But with these ones in the center, the pillars in the center, it's not as obstructive as it would be if you had walls around the whole thing, or if this thing was actually to scale where, this is like, I said, like each tier was like 10 or 15 feet, I can't remember which, but anyways, I think it was 10 feet. So each tier is 10 feet. So if I had, 2 inches up and then another 2 inches up, if this was in real scale, this thing would be way, a lot higher than it actually is. But right now it's very playable, but it still gives the illusion of scale and depth. And these pillars also give the illusion, and they're 2 inches tall. So, but you could easily say that the ceiling is higher than this, than these actually go up. So, although these end here, they still go up further into the ceiling of the cavern. So they're just giving the feel of what the cavern's like. Now I glued these on, so the problem with that is this tile is going to be thicker than a normal tile, but it's really not that big of a deal. I find that if you just try to put them down, you could do little bases for each of these, and you could just put them down. You could do that, but I find that it's a lot more setup to do this. You got to put all these. Right now, I could just grab this tile, slam it on the table, and I'm ready to go. If I have these all separate, and they're so easy to make that if I have these all separate, then I got to put each one down, and they'll get moved around and jerked around. But now they're not going anywhere. I've played games where people have done terrain like that, and especially when you're trying to get in to places like this, and it's just so easy to knock that over or knock it away, and you spend half the game setting back up. I played this big labyrinth game where someone had done a table, and they had, I think they were like 4 inches tall instead of the 2, and it was just really hard. Like, we kept knocking stuff over and moving it out of the way by mistake, and it was just really hard to get in there and play. That's why I like these 2-inch tall pillars, because they give the illusion of the height, but they don't obstruct play as much. And that's the reason I glued them down, because they don't get knocked all over the place. So there you go. That's your decision as a design person, as a DM. Is it worth it to have them separate, or would you rather just glue them down and use them? Now, you could always just rip these off if you needed them for another adventure, if you wanted to. Or they're just so easy to make, just make more. That might take you an hour to make a dozen. So it's really not that big of a deal. They're so easy to make with those hot wire tools. Just sit down and make a bunch. You could always make more than that and just have them ready for another adventure if you just wanted to glue them down to a tile or something like that. So anyways, there we go. That's the look of these things, and I think they're really fantastic. Really great way to add some spice to your tile. And they are, the hot wire tools are a little expensive, but they're really worth it. I mean, it'd be hard to make this stuff without this technique. You could do it with some other kinds of techniques like I've shown, but this is just really a quick, dirty, easy way to do this. So there you go. There's my mine tile with those stone pillars in there, and I'll see you next time for more DM's Craft. Hey guys, DM Scotty here. Wanted to do a quick note on the hot wire foam factory tools. I've talked about these before in another video, but like I said, I'm a crafter. I've been a crafter a long time. I've done wargame terrain before I started doing this, these cardboard tiles that I've been showing you. And I have used these for years. I have had them for a very long time. Now the set I've been showing you is a newer set, because mine were so old that they were just so out of date, but they all still work and I still use them all. So these things will last you your crafting career. So I highly recommend you getting these if you can afford them. You can always ask for them for birthday or Christmas or whatever holiday you would get a present on. So I recommend these tools, and I use them myself. And they're not required for our DM crafting, but as I will continue to show, they can be a real boon to your projects and have you add some real spice to your tiles. So we'll see you next time on the DM's Craft. Hey guys, if you're really digging these videos and would like some more information or to talk to other crafters, look at the link below in the description, and you can join my forum on the DM's Craft. We'd love to have you, and I'll see you there.